Welcome in, friends. It is another Monday. Hashtag Real Race Talk. It is the Revved Up Sports Show as we are diving in, and man, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about we'll talk about local stuff, obviously. So that's going to be coming up. Just about 15 minutes or so from now, we're going to be joined by James Higdon. He's going to talk about River City Quarter Midgets, which is they're actually going to be making their debut over at Houston Motorsports Park this weekend for the season finale. So we'll talk about that. And then I'm sorry, friends. This is, I think I posted this on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere. We're talking a lot of NASCAR tonight. Cup Series, man. Well, actually, all of them, because this whole weekend, Bobby, was just, I mean, you want to talk about a mess? NASCAR has a mess they're dealing with right now.
Well, more so in the Cup Series than anything else, but they were all certified clusters going into Martinsville. Now the opinion is split. I have never seen, and we'll get into it more, but I've never seen the fan base more split. You know, the ones that are watching it, not the ones that say they will never watch it again and first one to have the take the following week. But the fan base is really split. I mean, I think the genie's out of the bottle, the cat's out of the bag, whatever you want to call it. I don't think you could go back to a NASCAR without a playoff system. They've been doing it for 20 years. It started in 2004. They've had some type of elimination or some type of chase format or some kind of, they went to the elimination format, 10 years ago with Kevin Harvick winning in 2014. We're now in 2024. I just don't think you can go back to a NASCAR system that doesn't have some type of playoff, some type of 10 race playoff, whether you have elimination style or go back to the chase with just 10 races and reset the points. I don't see it happening. But the fan base is pretty split.
Yeah, there's a lot of question right now as to what needs to happen. And I think that you don't. I mean, obviously you don't. I mean, because we've lived through it. I've talked about it so many different times to where you get to the end of the season and it's irrelevant. I mean, they're running races and it's like, who the champ's going to be. And you get to the end and there's a celebration and all that. I mean, you don't want to go back to that. But I think the one thing that's very apparent, and we've got lots of sound that we'll listen to tonight from, just different people across the industry that have been talking about everything that happened yesterday. And this is where, to me, but it's a byproduct of what we're dealing with now, is now with the manufacturer thing and the communications and all that. It really came to the forefront yesterday with team orders and all that. I mean, that's the problem I have. I don't have a problem with the playoffs. I mean, I don't have a problem with the playoffs at all. But my thought is, in a year where the college football playoff is expanding to 12, I think that this is something that NASCAR may need to consider. Bobby, I with everything that went down yesterday, I don't know if anything's going to change. I say put them all in. But all 8, that is, with all the mess yesterday. But yesterday was something where, I mean, you want to talk about divided stuff. You said it, man. People are all over the map with this.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, I think that it became just it it's the lay of the land, right? I mean, when you have all these war rooms and stuff back at the headquarters, all these race shops, you know that they've got a beeline in. The manufacturers have an extra direct line, like the Bat phone or
Yep.
that red phone. You know, they've got a phone that rings. When that phone rings, and it's Jim Campbell from Chevrolet, General Motors, whatever you want to call it, saying, "Hey, do not pass that car because we want a Chevrolet to make the playoffs." Guess what? You gonna relay that message, and they ain't gonna pass that car.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the thing about it is, I don't want to get into it too far before we, really dive into it, because that's going to be after later on the show. But I mean, yesterday, man, it was really obvious what was going on, and that's where, I mean, being in those situations, when you're in the middle of a points race, or guys that are contending for a point championship, or whatever the case may be, that gets really hard, because we've talked about that in the past, where it's like you get to the finale and it's four dudes racing, and everybody else is just kind of getting out of the way. And that's been really obvious too. But yesterday, I think, is where everything really, the shit hit the fan, where there were guys blocking. I mean, all of that. I mean, there was really no way around any of that. And I don't know what's going to happen from here, but it's going to be it's going to be an interesting week, because I really don't think that everything that we saw yesterday, I don't think it's done, because you know how NASCAR is. I mean, and I applaud them. They sat there and they figured that shit out last night, where we didn't drag into Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever. They did what they thought was right, but I don't think it's done. I don't think it's done yet.
Oh no, the suspensions are coming and the fines are coming. They'll come Wednesday afternoon about 2:00. That's when the internet will break, and you'll probably see some. I don't know if it's going to go as far as suspensions, but you're going to see some hefty monetary fines for the 3, the 1, and the 23 for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've got some very candid thoughts from a very well-known racing personality that we'll talk about a little bit later on. We do want to mention here, as we fire off the Revved Up Livecast here on this Monday, a Central Texas Monday that's about to get maybe weather active for once. We're really excited, because one of the things that we've always thought about doing on this program was getting some sort of audio app. To where you can listen in the car, whatever you can catch a YouTube feed, you can catch a Spreaker replay, all these different things, Apple, Google, you can catch all the replays, or whatever the case is. But I reached out to my man, Brad Kellner, over at Texas Sports Unfiltered, that I work with during the week. And I was asking him about how he built his app, a very successful, very well populated, attended app. And he said, don't start over. He said, run it on TSU. So we want to welcome in the folks, audio only, checking in on Texas Sports Unfiltered on that free app. You can find it on all of your Google Play, Apple iStore, whatever. We do have a text line for the folks that may be checking in on the app. It's not the same text line as TSU, 512-814-6710. So if you want to text in 512-814-6710, we welcome in another syndicator, Texas Sports Unfiltered, that joins Racing America, Race On, all the others that are part of the program. So, to me, that's so cool. I love audio, Bobby. Man, we're old school when it comes to this stuff. So when we can just have an audio app for people to check in, it's pretty kick-ass.
It really is. When you think the evolution of the show, because that's the basis that the show started. It was a live. It's always been live.
Yep.
From day one. But it was very audio only in the beginning. It was a live cast that was set up, and then as the evolution of the show happened over the course of the last 8 years, I guess about 3.5, 4 years ago, everybody said you got to go video, with the rise of Facebook video and with the ease of getting stuff up onto YouTube and places like that. I mean, it became a challenge to not have the video aspect. But the problem is some of our best golden interviews is all audio only. So you got to, we've got to come in and kind of convert it over to the new stuff, like the Bobby Allison video. That's the joy of checking out the archives. You've got, the Alabama gang over there. You got Bobby Allison. You got Donnie Allison's in there. Terry Labonte's in there. Slick Yeomans is in there. Bobby Labonte was on the old Horn show, ATX. So They've all been on. Our buddies Adam Stern, and they've been on, and Dustin
Bob
Long,
Jenkins,
NBC Sports, Bob
we got Bob
Jenkins.
Jenkins right before he passed. It's like kind of
I
feel
think
bad.
we were the last ones to get Freddie Fryer, and I think we were one of the last ones to get Bob Jenkins.
I know, man. It's like you come on this show and you're gonna like pass away. I'm like, oh my god. I mean, that's kind of scary. But yeah, I mean, some of those audio files. I mean, you go back and I mean, Haley Deegan's on there. I mean, there's so many different ones to where we're gonna get all of that. And the cool part about that is we need to get it in audio form to where people can go back and listen to that part, because it's I mean, it's one thing. Yeah, this is all cool. I mean, the graphics and having cameras and all that. I mean, I love it. I mean, I've never been the biggest video guy. I've had to, I had to scratch and claw to do this. I mean, it was for me, it was always, I'm very auditory. It's like, I mean, audio will survive, but I'm just happy that now we have that audio app, where you're driving in the car, you subscribe there, you just listen to it. It's like a radio show, which that's what this is. I mean, this is very much a radio show. You see a lot of the different programs that are on all the different places, Facebook Live or whatever, and they sit there and it's very much made for video. This is Bobby. This is you and I doing a radio show. We just happen to fucking have cameras on.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's kind of what happens here. So anyway, super cool to have that done. And thanks Brad and BK and all the sponsors there that are helping out and affording us the opportunity to be just audio again. It's pretty cool.
It's always fun to expand the brand. It's always a good time when we get to meet new people and introduce ourselves to new people and new partners. So it's all part of the fun.
No doubt about it. Going to the YouTube chat line, by the way, that text line, the 814-6710-512 area code, is presented by Audiovisual Consultations. But so Deborah Brusso right here checking in on YouTube. And this is I love this because this is short track racing, a short track racing thought right here. So just have a 50-lap shootout with 8 of them, a 25-lap shootout for the final 4. And that's something to where it's just very weird. NASCAR is very weird in the sense, like we were talking about, to where you get to the championship race, because when you have a World Series, NBA Finals, soccer, I mean, baseball, I mean, you've got 2 contenders. It's very weird that everybody is still a part of this. And I think that's something that sets NASCAR apart in that sense. But at the same time, because it is, I mean, that championship race next week in Phoenix, this one may be different, I think, this year, Bobby. But usually that thing is kind of like, those guys are just out there smoking a cigarette, drinking beer. The other guys are just driving. I mean, last year Ross won that race, I guess. But it's kind of a snoozer. It's kind of a snoozer.
The problem is that if I ask you the question, let's see, let me do quick math in my head. Over the course of the last 35 years, what is your most memorable championship race? And I already know your answer. What is your most memorable championship race over the course of the last 35 years in NASCAR Cup Series?
35 years. So how far back do we go there? That would be
right at 90.
Well, I mean, obviously, just Terry and Bobby. I mean, the Labonte race. I mean, that's going to be one. That holds for the sentimental part of me. But I mean, the Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart race was amazing. I mean, you had that was really good, and quite frankly, the way that Jimmy Johnson came back and won his final championship, which I think that one right there is maybe where stuff got tainted. Because I think that's where people got soured on a little bit of this, because Jimmy shouldn't have won that championship, but he did. That wasn't in the play. That wasn't a playoff.
Yeah.
Was it?
That was 2013. That was part of the elimination. 2016, I think.
16. Yeah. So I think that Jimmy Johnson is a lot of the problem with all of this. I mean, like you and I have talked about, I mean, the domination that he had all that time, where NASCAR would go and change rules and do all these different things to try to stop the 5 in a row. Then he wins that one. That was kind of the shot in the nuts right there to NASCAR from Jimmy and Chad, where it's like, do whatever you want. We're still going to be champions. And look, I have no problem with the system, but yesterday was just pretty obvious that there's ways to manipulate it. And it was very clearly done, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very, very over the top. The race that you're missing is the 1992 Hooters 500.
Oh, the Hooters race. Yeah, the Hooters 500.
Because
Now,
everybody wanted to recreate that race, and that's basically what the Championship 4 race does.
well, and that race right there gets thrown around a lot, and that's an anomaly in this whole thing, because that's where you had those dudes that went into that final race. Who was that? Harry Gant, Davey, and of course Bill and Al and Kowicki.
Kyle Petty,
Kyle Petty. Yeah, you had all those guys.
Davey
But
Allison.
yeah, Davey. You had all of them. And that's, I think, where people go back to that old point system towards like, well, hell, you look at that race. But that was one. That was one.
That's
Most,
one.
most of them were out of control.
Yeah,
Out of
wrapped
control.
up by Rockingham.
Right.
Or you had
And
to finish 35th at
yeah,
Atlanta.
hell, yeah. And that's where I think that this is really a good thing that it works out this way. Of course, there's going to be flaws in the system, but yesterday it was just painfully obvious. And I have actually gone back and today I've actually paid attention to NASCAR mainstream media, and even some of the most flag-toting NASCAR does nothing wrong journalists are saying something needs to be done different. Not change, be done different.
Don't forget they had the hearing today too. We'll get into that later too.
Yeah, we can dive into that. It's a very loaded NASCAR program. Speaking of NASCAR, so coming up this weekend, Houston Motorsports Park, it will be the season finale coming up out there at HMP. Weather permitting, I think weather is going to be kind of crazy all week, but I think that everything should be good for Saturday. And it's going to be a full, every class that has run out there will be a part of that. But also coming in, you're going to have the NASCAR Youth Series. And what that is, I mean, that's our friends. That's our quarter midget kids. I mean, that's our dudes that get out there and race. So many great Texas drivers have come out of that and are racing now around the country and leading the charge for this coming up on Saturday at HMP. It is our man, James Higdon. James, how you doing, brother?
Pretty good. How y'all doing?
Doing well, my friend. Before we dive into everything coming up this weekend, just kind of from our email chain that we've been working on different things, talk about this weekend. It sounds like you guys were very busy this past weekend as well.
Yes. So we've raced a double feature teams from as far away as Tulsa and New Mexico last weekend, and then a double feature the weekend before that in Austin. So by youth racing standards, it's been very busy.
Yeah, no doubt.
So talk about that. We talked to different kind of regimes of the quarter midgets and stuff like that raced over the last couple of years in Austin and San Antonio. How much cooperation is that to get the teams and the kiddos from New Mexico and Tulsa? I mean, that's not exactly a breezeway down, just to cruise down 35 to get that far. But how's that open line of communication work between those three main hubs?
Amazingly well this year, actually. We've got members that they're very interested in making this all work on every side of it. So we're actually working next year on getting obviously San Antonio and Austin, but Oklahoma and hopefully a couple other areas involved in a larger race series for the whole area. As a lot of racing in the country this has kind of shifted to be a regional thing as opposed to just local racing every Saturday. So we're working on putting together groups from all over this part of the country that can race together and bring more kids in and more larger teams in to race together.
James, I think one of the coolest things for me about this, I mean, whether it's the Austin region or San Antonio, whatever the case may be, talk about the family aspect to this. Obviously, these are younger drivers. These are kiddos, but I mean, these are race events. But when you guys do something, it's more of it's kind of like a family picnic. I mean, because it's going to take all day, and you got everybody there, and everybody's helping each other out. Talk about that part.
That's the best part of it. This perfect example. My Friday night we got down there. There was a fish fry going. We were trying to sort out the race car, and at one point I turned around and my racer, my 9-year-old son, was gone, and he was wandered off and made friends with somebody from Oklahoma, and they were off in their RV playing. So there are kids and people, and everybody's all around, and we bring my 5-year-old out there, and he's always out running around with the other kids. This is one of the few sports we tried everything. Tried a bunch of different sports to get my kid involved, and they just wouldn't take. But this is good because the whole family loves it. My wife does the scoring. I'm involved with tech and keeping the track up. There's something for every member of the family. So it's been good. It's been very good for our family.
So James, when we say kids, I mean, a lot of times when Rodney and I are older, so we mention, kids is college kids all the way down to little kids, right? The
Yes,
ones
sir.
shaking the baby bottles at us, right? But when we say kids, we're talking about little kids. Talk about the age groups that are racing these little quarter midgets.
So they can actually start practicing at 4.5. And there are kids out there that young practicing. From there, they can start racing at 5. I would say the vast majority of our racers are in that kind of 8 to 10 or 11 range, and they can race until 17. But the majority of these kids, Case James is a good example. He raced until he was 14, and now he's moving on to other things. But that's kind of the dividing line there. 14, 15, they start moving on to other cars.
Yeah, and that's the thing right there, James. I think it's so important. Again, personal opinion here. I think it's so important to get kiddos started at that age. Other than because one of the biggest problems in racing right now, again, my opinion, is that younger kids get thrown into stuff that they're not capable of handling, and they get in trouble. They cause messes. I mean, watch super late models and watch dirt track races around the country, and it's kids that get thrown in. Talk about that aspect, because you guys teach them the racing basics. I mean, it's not like just get in this thing and go. You learn them the right way.
Yeah. So the vast majority of the emphasis with us, especially the first year and a half, is racecraft. We do a lot of work on not just understanding flags and lineups and things like that, but it's racing well with your competitors, not wrecking the other kids, not dive bombs into the corner. We have conversations before every race about things that happened at the last race to help the kids learn where they need to be and how to race well with other drivers. And we use examples. NASCAR is perfect. We say don't race like those guys do sometimes.
Don't do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before we get into Houston, James, talk about the cars themselves. Obviously, they're called a quarter midget. But for those that are not familiar with it, we've got some new people listening from the partnership we have with Texas Sports Unfiltered. Talk about the car itself. What exactly is a quarter midget for those that don't know?
So a lot of people think they're go-karts. They're not. These are tube frame 4130 chassis midgets that have been shrunk down. We run what is theoretically a stock Honda industrial engine, but like every race engine, they get sent out, they get built, they get modified, everything gets built to the edge of the rules. So we start out with a 4 horsepower engine, start out with an 8 horsepower engine, modify it, and get as much as we can out of it. But they're full race cars. They've got panhard rods front and back. They've got coilovers all the way around. You send the shocks out to the same people you send them out for late models.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, they're race cars. There's no doubt about it. They run Hans are hybrid devices. They've got containment seats in them. Everything that the late model guys are using, we're using some version of it. These kids safe and to get them faster.
Yeah, that's right. James, how hard is it with these kiddos? Because, I mean, as they get older, I mean, you start out, you're a little timid. You get behind the wheel, you get more confidence, you start winning races, you start discovering things in life, and it kind of changes the whole mood of a kid, boy or girl, whatever the case. How do you guys control that? I mean, that maturity part. You get to 10 or 12 years old and you start thinking that whatever, get ballsy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. How do you guys handle that part?
So it's, this to me feels like an old fashioned community. I grew up in the 80s and, your friends' parents would be just as likely to discipline you as yours. And that's kind of how this is. All the parents work to help keep the kids in line. We've got race directors that keep the kids in line, but every single group of parents is out there watching over the kids. And it really is a family, a community that helps to keep the kids together and growing in a cohesive manner. It's not just about the racing. It's about making better humans out of these kids. And it works.
Absolutely.
So James, Houston coming up this weekend. How did that deal come about to be able to race there at the Palace of Power with the big cars?
I noticed that just kind of offhand watching Houston on a race on earlier this year, noticed that most of our alumni are going to Houston racing there, and it clicked that that's where we should be. And I've reached out to Karen Gordon. We started putting it together. It kind of took off. All the families were interested in going, so it was easy to get cars together. A lot of the families that race in Austin and race in San Antonio also race their big cars in Houston. So it was easy for them to commit to take a car up there. The Wrights, Caulfield, there's or Caldwell. Sorry, there's a lot of us already racing in other places. So it was a natural progression to show these kids where they can go and what they can do with this, and it's a good opportunity for everybody involved, I hope.
I think so too. I think it's going to be a really good stage, and it kind of ties in with everything that's going on over there. I mean, because it really is. I mean, when you look at this, these are the kids that are going to, because you can go down the list of folks that have graduated to big cars like you're talking about, James. I think that this is something that's going to work really well. And I'm curious to know, I haven't asked you this, is there a chapter in Houston? Because to me, the Houston thing is like, man, that is just an amazing market for pavement racing, the possibility of it. Is there a chapter there at all?
No, there isn't. Houston, Dallas, Corpus, all should have chapters because they all have racetracks, and they don't. So the track in San Antonio and the track in Austin are both from the 60s, 50s, and 60s.
Oh, yeah.
They've just managed to stay running and stay racing, but the tracks in other parts of the state haven't. So we are interested in trying to help build this in Houston and build it in Dallas. And we've talked specifically next year about racing in different places and doing different things to try and get people from other parts of the state down in here, and then hopefully build in other parts of the state.
So what's the track length? Are they all the same length between the two tracks? Are they all, or is one big? Is it like going back in the old day? You had a quarter mile in Austin and a half mile in San Antonio, or what's the what's the track length on those? They're all about the same.
So they're roughly the same. The aim is 1/20th of a mile. The San Antonio track is much more of a tight bull ring, where Austin is kind of our bigger track.
Yeah.
And it's, just like tracks nationally. We've got dirt tracks, we've got asphalt tracks, there's concrete tracks. But the San Antonio and Austin tracks it's kind of the difference between Martinsville and Bristol. They're the same length, but nothing else about them is very similar.
Every time that I drive by Austin, it's like, that looks like CC Speedway, but kind of smaller is what that looks like right there. Every time from the walls and everything.
Same racing surface, probably with potholes and seashells in it too. Yeah,
same surface, probably. James, talk about so right now with the state of quarter midget racing. Is it something to where I think that folks are really figuring out that this is the place for the kids to start, not the other stuff? I mean, the folks with a lot of money, they're going to put them in pro late models or factory stocks or whatever. But what kind of is the mood right now? Is everything really starting to blossom? Because I'm starting to see quarter midget racing, NASCAR Youth Series. I'm starting to see that on a more national brand, and that to me is good for the state of racing moving forward.
Yeah, so NASCAR actually bought out the Youth Series a few years ago, and it's been a big, NASCAR is NASCAR. They're going to have their own problems, but
Yep.
What it has brought is a national unity to the clubs. So there's races every year. I think 6 to 8 national races, and they race in conjunction with NASCAR race weekend. So they race, Talladega when Talladega's racing, Charlotte, Sonoma. Oddly enough, there's none in Texas, but they hit all over the country, and those are the big races that people travel to. That's been a big thing. And then again, just like, late models, there's not a huge collection of local tracks, but there's huge travel series. Well, it's the same thing. We've got, in quarter midgets, we've got the Dixie Series, which is a Southeastern series that runs all over the country. We're trying to do the same thing here. We've got a Texas series that's going to extend into Oklahoma and hopefully other parts of the central part of this country. So the potential is there for it to grow. It's always a money versus benefit thing, but I think that it's got the potential to grow with NASCAR involved.
All right, James, money wise, talk about the cost to get into one of these things. I know I wanted to when I was a kid, but it's just a little bit out of reach for somebody that was, 10 or 12 years old wanting to race a car. But talk about now with the economies, the scale of these things.
It's just like any other thing. You could spend as much. The car it's won 3 races in the rookie class this year and is getting competitive in a very competitive senior class. We spent $3,500 on. You can buy a car for $1,500, $2,000. You can spend $20,000, $25,000 on a car. To be competitive nationally, you can take a basic 5 or 6 year old car, put a good engine in it, good tires, and with the right driver, run competitively. But money wise, to get started, $1,500, $2,000, you can get into a car. What is different about quarter midget racing versus almost everything else is that both local clubs run a loaner program where small nominal amount, a family can come in and essentially rent a car for 6 races. That's how we got started. We had no inkling that this was going to become what we did as a family, but the president at the time, I got involved talking back and forth with her. She told us about the loaner program, got involved with that. My son ran the 6 races, and actually I guess it was the 5th race, just completely demolished the car in an accident. We bought our own car, and that's kind of the end of it for us. We're full into it, but you can get started with it with very little money. Make sure the kid takes to it, and then buy your own car after that, or buy a car from one of the clubs. Because it is an age-related thing, the cars turn over pretty quickly. So there's always cars out there, always cars available.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I love that part. I mean, because it's one of those things where you make an investment, like if you're going to play pickleball or tennis,
Right.
golf, you spend all this money on it, and then it's like, no, it sucks, and you're out that money. I mean, I like that right there. So James, let's talk about Bobby mentioned Houston this weekend. Let's talk about how we're going to set this up. I mean, because I think that HMP is a great place for quarter midgets in Houston because you have that facility and you have that infield or the pit road, whatever it's called. Kind of talk about how everything's going to be set up out there this weekend there at HMP for folks that have been there before.
So there is enough in the infield to set up a national spec quarter midget track, the same tracks that NASCAR sets up all over the country. We've measured it out. We've got the room there. We're going to show up early, clean the parking lot off, or clean the infield off, and set up our track there. And it's actually a pretty quick, easy process. You measure everything out and set up the turtles that are essentially the rumble strips on the inside of the track, and then go race. There's nothing much to it, really.
It's awesome.
That's great. That's going to be fun. Time wise, are the events timed, or are they lapped, or they lap count, or both?
So it depends on the day. Most of our events are just lap count. I don't think we've ever really timed out of an event. The point is to train the kids well enough that we don't time out of events. But yeah, they're the rookies start with 10-lap heat races, 20-lap feature races, and then as they get older, they go to 20-lap heat races and 40-lap feature races. So they'll lap this track we're setting up. They'll lap in the 7-second range. So a good heat race or a good feature race will last less than 5 minutes.
Damn.
Wow. It's faster than go-karts at most dirt tracks.
Like a dwarf car race back on pavement back in the old days. Super good stuff. Quarter midgets, a NASCAR Youth Series coming to HMP. That'll be November 9th. It's a full day. I mean, you guys are going to be a part of kind of right there, right along with the meet and greet, which I think will be great because people can kind of see it firsthand. And then the main event's coming up a little bit later in the evening with all the other stuff. James, got to ask you, we kind of dive off of this for just a second. Pavement racing in Texas. I mean, you've been, very influential in trying to help things here and try to get things happening. I mean, I got to think that this getting the kids over to Houston got to be pretty special for you because, I mean, it's all we got left. I mean, it is it. So kind of talk about that part.
That's actually, it's a big part of why I want to do this. As you know, we tried multiple times to get San Antonio Speedway reopened after the effort in the mid-teens.
Mm-hmm.
And the H&P deal offers a chance to help keep that going and to show a broader base of people what the potential is there and where these kids can go. So yeah, it's kind of another chance to keep this going and to let the kids see what we grew up with, what all of us grew up with,
mm-hmm.
and what it can look like if we work to keep it going. I-37, perfect example. Dirt tracks are thriving. They've got huge car counts, but we can't keep the asphalt tracks going. So this is another opportunity to help keep that going and to hopefully grow that a little bit. So yeah, it does tie into that. It does tie into the effort to keep the last track here and to help some and to show these kids they don't have to get mini sprints that go race on dirt tracks, and wherever they hear and race, and we can load up and go to Houston and race there on the weekends.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun. I think the little kids or the kiddos or whatever you want to call them, so they don't get upset. I think they're going to enjoy racing around that concrete on the inside there at the Palace of Power. So I think that, and you know what? Chances are, I'm gonna bet that they have more hero cards for the little kids than the big cars have with the adults. That's
probably.
My guess is they'll be more prepared and have more autographs than anybody else on the meet and greet on Saturday night.
Well, we're going to be happy to have them out there. It's going to be a lot of fun for everyone. So we're working on getting a car set up so the kids can, the kids that are on the front stretch can come and look at a car and sit in it and get looks like. Try and get them to get addicted to it like the rest of us are.
Yeah, no doubt. James, obviously, we'll see you there Saturday. I mean, tell folks where to dive in and hone in with you guys to get in check and folks that may be interested, because I have a feeling because like you're talking about right here, and I'm blown away that Houston does not have anything like this. I think that you guys are going to get a lot of attention, with the eyeballs that you're going to have. Tell folks how to get a hold of all of you all if they're interested in getting their kids into something that is really wholesome, good, family, fun, athletic wise.
So Facebook is the easiest way to get a hold of us. River City Quarter Midgets in Austin, Lone Star Quarter Midgets in San Antonio. We respond to that almost immediately. So that's the easiest way to get a hold of us. But we race in North Central Austin. We race in Southeast San Antonio. All the events are free. Find us on Facebook, come out, watch an event for free. If you come out and nobody recognizes you, 10 people will walk up and invite you to let their kids sit in the car. So it's the friendliest group of people you could ever possibly wish to race with.
Oh man, damn, we need that. We need that on the big kid side. Need that on the big kid side, because that's what really honed us in. James, I mean, just kind of how many families, race teams, what are you guys expecting at H&P this weekend? Just kind of in round numbers.
Right. 8 to 10, the competitive class cars, the non-rookie cars, and then probably 5 or 6 of the rookie cars. We figured out as this came along that we're right in the middle of our last 2 championship races, and then we got teams racing in Southeast in the Dixie Series. We've got teams headed to Vegas for a big race over the Thanksgiving weekend. So we're working with everybody to get as many cars there as we can. This being a non-points race, exhibition race, it's the first time for us.
Yeah,
we should still have a decent turnout. 8 cars together on a 1/20th mile track, it's pretty crowded pretty quick. So I think we'll put on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Looking forward to it, my man. Happy to have you guys out there at Houston. I think it's going to be a good time, and it's going to tie a lot of things together. Thank you for what you're doing, man. We got to keep this thing going, and folks like you all. I mean that's our future. Ain't nobody else beating the door down to do these things. So you guys are really doing something special.
I appreciate that.
You got it. Take care, my friend. I'll see you Saturday.
Thank you.
You bet. There he goes. James Higdon. That I think that's really cool. I mean, because think about that, Bobby. If you're a young kid out there, you've been racing, you know, quarter midgets or whatever the case is, and you get out there to the big oval, and you're sitting there, and you're going to be in awe of the place. I mean, it's that's really cool thinking about that.
It's gonna be a lot of fun watching that deal, just because you get to see the evolution. And like you said, there's so many alumni that started in quarter midgets racing in the full size cars now, or even in the Legends cars and Legacy cars as well. That it'll make it a homecoming, if you will, to complete that circle of life from where the racer started. Obviously, a lot of second, third, and even fourth generation racers that are racing the quarter midgets now. You've got the Wrights up there. You got Maya Teague. Fourth generation racer there with the Teague family racing quarter midgets there in Austin and San Antonio. So lots of tie-ins and a lot of connections already. So it should make for a really good, if anything, it should, in theory, give the big kids and the full-size cars a kick in the pants to try to get their stuff together and put on a really good show.
Yeah.
They don't want to get outshined by the quarter midgets. And hell, they just might.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, I envision that's why I asked him about car count. I think that some of those divisions may outnumber the big kids, and that's a whole different discussion. And you know that's we'll talk about that in the off season. But I just think it's really cool that they're getting the chance to be out there. And James, I mean, it was. You know, we've watched James work there with the different things he's tried to do. I mean, some of that, it's like, oh, why is he doing this? I mean, it's not going to happen. But I can tell you for asphalt racing in the state of Texas, when it comes to guys that are diehard and really wanting shit to happen, it's one of the best guys you're going to find. I mean, because that guy has fought to the death on some of these things. To try to get stuff put together, and you need more of that. I mean, that's the guys you need, and I'm glad that it's reciprocated down to the kids.
I think so. I mean, I think that that's the best way. There's been that discussion with our friends at Cotton Bowl whether or not they need to add a junior limited class there at CBS, and the question came up about the age thing. I think that the quarter midgets serve the same purpose as like a junior limited, where they teach them all about the aspects of racing and teach them about the code of conduct, if you will, that's missing in a lot of places. So it becomes a unique starting ground, either way you look at it, with the junior limited or, in this case, a quarter midget.
Yeah. With all of that, I mean, I saw the post obviously there about the quarter midgets, the junior limiteds and all that. I think that would work out really well at Cotton Bowl. I posted something that I've been catching some
chastised about
a little bit, but I mean,
it was not conducive to staying positive, sir.
But I'm sorry, that's what I do. I just tell you guys what I think, and I love the idea. I mean, I love the idea of those cars being there because, number one, I think they'll bring a lot of people from Waco. With a Friday class. I guess it's actually Kennedale has them also, so you can conceivably do some really cool things on a Saturday on that big track. I think that it's a really cool place. I mean, in my opinion, again, just my opinion, I'm not speaking for Bobby. If you want to be a dirt track racer, if you plan to graduate yourself into dirt track racing, that's the best way. I made the Sport Compact comment. If you want to get out there and race and Sport Compact is your flavor, that's great. Do that. But if you want to get to be Jared Maupin, or you want to get to be Howard Willis, or all these guys that we talk, and ladies, Brenda Kirby that we talk about, you start in a junior limited or something similar to that. But my thing with the Cotton Bowl comment is that's a lot of classes. You already have a lot. There's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. I just don't. They'll show up. I mean, you know the Cotton Bowl thing. They're going to show up, and that's just a lot. That's just a lot, in my opinion.
It's a lot of classes. That's also a lot of potential revenue there. So
Absolutely.
that's beneficial for the track. Although it's not something I want to see every week. They don't run them every week in Waco, do they?
It's well, the thing is kind of what's happening. They didn't run them all the time in Waco, but it's gotten to where that class is so popular that they've had to add them in there. So I think it's probably every other week or every other. Well,
I guess Waco runs weekly though, so that's a little different.
Yeah,
but I don't think you need to run them every single race at Cotton Bowl. I think you scatter them in, especially if you're going to test out the waters. I think that you scatter them in, every couple of races or every other race, maybe just to see if the class catches on and kind of go from there. Like I don't think it's something that you commit to for a full season every single race weekend, just because you don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah,
it's the same difference with the trucks there at Texana, how they decided they're going to give the trucks a shot at the beginning of the year just to see what the truck count's like and the pit gate is like and what the fan reaction is. So and schedule more from there. I think Cotton Bowl should probably take somewhat similar to that same approach with the junior limiteds.
Yeah, I think Cotton Bowl would be Cotton Bowl to me is a really good spot to where you could do like a big junior limited race, kind of like not a national but a regional thing. A state of Texas championship. Cotton Bowl is just very much built for that. I mean, all classes, in my opinion, because it's kind of a show palace when it comes to dirt tracks. I mean, these tracks around here, you got the bull rings. I mean, I like the bull ring racing. I mean, when it comes to me for dirt track racing, I love the Cotton Bowl races, but I prefer Waco and South Texas and I-37. I mean, I think I-37 this past weekend with the DTK, which, by the way, Cody Leonard ruled that, winning modifieds and late models. Jared Maupin, I mean, what's it tell you if Jared Maupin finished fourth in every class? What's that tell you? What's that tell you?
Heavy hitters down there.
Heavy hitters. And that's, to me, with the dirt track racing, it's one of those things to where I like the smaller tracks, which is where Cotton Bowl is very different because it's the speed plan. I mean, it's kind of the Daytona, in my opinion, of some of the dirt track stuff. But I think, do it selected stuff. And I think the input and the participation would be good. I think with junior limiteds.
I think so. I mean, I don't think it's something you run every single week. That's just a bit too much because you could also alternate classes, let a class off for a week and, stuff like that. But I mean, you don't want to lose the revenue, but you also don't want to make that show run longer than it needs to run. That's the problem. I mean, I think there's 5 or 6 regular classes now. You add in a 7th class, man, that could make for a long night. Long nights don't work all that well for repeat customers.
Yeah, that's a whole thing, and that's where it's a good problem to have, but I mean, they got a lot of cars. I mean, every division there is healthy, and I think that just adding that, and then I made the remark about giving everybody a place to race, and that didn't go over well. But I mean that because we've seen it where it's like, okay, we got to add this class because they don't have a place to race, and then what happens? Then you don't have any cars in that class, and that. Anyway, so for anyone in the sport compacts that I may have upset with that, I didn't mean it that way. What I meant it as was, in my opinion, if you're going to start in dirt track racing, I think that at that track, that the junior limiteds would be better. That's all that I meant. If that even helps, probably made it worse, but oh well, that's all right. I mean, at the Rodney R on Twitter, hammer me. I don't care. We'll have a conversation, and that's the best part. Everything's been very nice and calm.
Nice and calm. They're going to chew your ass in Houston when they see you if they go to the asphalt track.
I don't care. I mean, it's one of those things to where, I mean, look, when do we start talking about the asphalt track? Don't get me started on the classes that I think shouldn't be racing there because nobody's showing up. So, Bobby, that's what we do. I mean, people like to listen to this show because we tell people, hashtag real race talk. That's what we do. And for the folks on the Texas Sports Unfiltered app, welcome to this shit show. This is what we've been doing for 8 years. We just kind of talk racing and people get pissed off.
Well, that's that's the only way to do it. We're not giving out real takes. We don't have the multi-million-dollar Stephen A. Smith contracts, but we'll give you our opinion. Sometimes they're controversial, sometimes they're truthful.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they're legit.
Yeah. So here's a look once again, and if you're on the audio app, this is the Wild West Motoplex.
No, that's the one from last week.
Oh, is that the wrong one? Oh, shit.
Wrong one.
Oh, damn. Okay, well, forget that. Yeah, all right. Well, forget all that. Here's what's happening. November 9th, every division, you're going to have modified trucks, everything. Late models, HMP stock cars, quarter midgets, all of that. You're going to have all of that happening there. Eco stocks, legends, legacies. It's going to be a full night of action that's going on there. And it's, it's a good way to end the season with the meet and greet. Now, this is when you do the meet and greet, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this is an opening night, middle of the season, and end of the season is when you do the meet and greet.
That's right. You get to see the cars when they're brand new, they smell good, and then you get to see them when they're all tore up and beat up. And that's the best way to do it. So all of that is coming up. I'll get that graphic pulled up. The other thing that you also have this weekend, if I pull the right thing up, hey, you got the Texas Grand. I mean, there's a lot going on over there in the Houston area this weekend.
Yeah, lots of stuff happening. Obviously, coming off a successful Halloween Havoc down there at 105 Speedway as well. So you throw in the 29th annual Texas Grand. It's the one thing about 105 is they've been able to carry on the traditions of a lot of the Houston races that have been there for years. A lot of them that were there at Battleground that came over, and then you got the 600 that came over. So obviously they've run the Texas Grand a number of different years there at 105 Speedway, but they've definitely they found the home to keep the racing tradition for dirt track stuff alive and well down there in the greater Houston area.
Yeah, they really have, and I think that what's so impressive, I think what 105 has done. I mean, because in that market, like we've talked about in the past, with the asphalt potential, is 105 is really honed in there. They race every week, and they jam the stands. They've got a really good car count, and they are taking advantage of being in a spot where out in Cleveland to where they can pull people in, and bringing in the Lone Star 600, all of that. I mean, I think it's been a really good year for them.
But it's been a couple of good years for that regime that they've had over there. So
yeah, there is the thing that I was looking for right there, the championship night. All of that right there, every class, you got the $1 beer, $1 hot dogs, all of that, and the NASCAR Youth Series that's going to be coming in. I think that it's going to be a really cool night. You can make a weekend out of it. I mean, go stay at the Holiday, get the discounted racers rate. I think that it'll be a good time to be had out there, and weather's supposed to be nicer. So hopefully it's something that draws some folks in.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a nice weekend. Still at 9, not quite sure I'll be there. Still working on some final logistics to head down there myself, but we'll see what shakes out. I know you'll be there for your semi-retirement farewell.
2 to go. 2 sticks in the air. 2 sticks in the air. I've got the November one, and then I go into not retirement. I go into seclusion is what I go into at that point, doing this show, of course. Also, one thing that I wanted to talk about before we get back to the NASCAR stuff, the Cars Tour, which I have a big heart on for, released their brand new schedule today. And take a look at this right there. That's what the Cars Tour plans to do next year. And it's a lot of the mainstays in there with Hickory, Wake County, Ace, Langley, Tri-County, South Boston, Florence. I mean, all those are there. That big old hole right there, right around my birthday. April 12th, Dale Earnhardt Jr. kind of dropped a hint about he really liked Cordele out there with Ricky and crew. Bobby, you think that they had the Cordele in that slot?
I mean, that's why they put it TBD or to be announced. I think that's the way that it fits in there. It's got enough time in there, a little close to Orange County. But the good news is Orange County's pretty centralized location to the Mid-Atlantic, where most of these cars are from anyway. Yeah. So I think that having that race down in Georgia is probably not going to hurt it. I think we've talked about it before, that it's good to break away from that core track.
Yeah.
The core area, regional wise, that they're kind of known to be in. So other than North Wilkesboro, it looks like they've lightened the load a little bit, and it looks like everybody gets at least once, including the throwback 276 is coming back.
Yeah. I like that there, because it's one of those things where I'm really on the fence about what they should do. I mean, to try to, obviously they have made their mark in that area over there. I mean, everything that they've done, I mean, they have really put a fantastic series together. And to me, they're kind of the benchmark for short track racing series right now. I mean, I know we just had the All-American this past weekend in Nashville, which Jake Garcia wins, by the way. I didn't have him in my what do they
Bingo
call it?
card, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't quite have him in there. Jake Garcia, Casey Roderick, Dawson Sutton, Gio Ruggiero, and Stephen Nasse. So it was Garcia from Georgia with a nice upset win right there. But, you know, the Cars Tour with the pros and with obviously the late model stocks, they've done a really good job honing in that area to kind of expand it a little bit. I, of course, reached out to them and said, hey, nice track in Houston. If you guys want to come to Texas, I'm still waiting for a response. I'm sure that they'll respond the way they always do and not respond. But I think that kind of that hole right there, if you break into the Georgia thing, I think would be really cool for them.
It definitely takes them out of their element in a good way, not necessarily a bad way. But I don't know. You're still hammering Ricky for a date for UARA there in Houston, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm like, man, bring me your sportsman or bring them your sportsman. I mean, come on, let's go. I mean, it's one of those things. Sorry, I love that track. You got to fix the lights. Need more light. It's dark. That place is dark. Needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Need that scoreboard fixed. And that's where, you know, I'm not going to totally hang my ass on the line quite yet until those things are done. But I mean, Bobby, you and I have both seen the potential in that place when you can draw something like that in there. And I think that people would love to come to Texas to there, for crying out loud. I think people would love to come over here to be a part of that. Teams would travel. Those teams would travel, bringing in, you know, Crown Vics and all these different things. You're not going to get them. Hobby stocks, they're not going to come. But a race like that, they'd come to that place.
Well, you get some East Coast guys too to kind of come in, or West Coast guys to come in as well. In terms of some of those guys. So I think that you could find a way to make it work. I still say it's the best place to do a snowball qualifier race. Winner of the race gets a provisional at the Derby, but you'd have to have you couldn't get Ricky and Tim involved in that one. So it'd have to be one way or the other with like a Southern Super Series race. But I think it's got, you know, having that track right there kind of in the middle of the nation, at least on the two Southern belts, that could be beneficial and be very intriguing for those that want to come try it out from the West Coast.
I totally agree. And I'll tell you one thing, speaking of the ASA Stars Tour, that's going to be interesting there with that win for Jake Garcia. Casey Roderick wins that championship there with Campy, with Anthony. And I think isn't it weird where he wins that championship? And for both of those guys, what a great bounce back year for both of them. But for Casey, that dude don't have a ride for the Derby. And that's really weird to think that Casey Roderick, who is, I mean, when you look at these guys and ladies, I mean, one of the most accomplished super late model wheelmen that you're going to find, and not having a ride and not having anything certain going in to 2025 kind of tells you how all of that element has changed, because it's a weird, you know, looking back in the modern day heyday of the Derby, as we would work towards December, it's Augie, Casey, Bubba, Nasse. I mean, all of these guys, you had them all on two hands. And right now, the fact that Casey doesn't have a ride for that's solidified, maybe he's got something he's working on that I don't know about, but it's weird. That tells you how that dynamic has changed.
It really does. I mean, it's the same adage, money by speed. How fast do you want to go? We've seen it before, but sometimes it's eye-opening. I mean, we've seen people take advantage of the race itself and come through. And, you know, Caden Honeycutt's the prime example when he broke the news on this show 4 or 5 years ago that he was going to race with Donnie Wilson in the Derby. And sure enough, goes down there and puts it on the front row, if not the pole, and dominated a good chunk of that race. And then ended up, that's what kickstarted his pavement career in the big national leagues. You know, obviously, you know, near and dear to our heart, friend of the show, been on multiple times. So, you know, starts out at the Derby, and lo and behold, now he's going to run full time with Nice in the trucks in 2025.
That, man, that's it. And we haven't been able to. I've talked to him a couple of times here as that announcement was made, and we haven't been able to get him on here. But man, I really think that's something where that guy's going to break out in 2025. I really think. I mean, because yesterday, I talked to JC today. I was trying to get Umshide on, because Umshide went up there for the All-American 100, which I think what was I think,
or top 5, I think.
yeah, I think he got 4th. So they went up there and threw an effort together in that 47 car, and he still got in the top 5. But I think that Caden Honeycutt in a nice truck, that dude, that's a commodity. That is going to be a commodity. And he's hit at the right time. And I think that's part of the problem, like talking about with Casey, because Roderick, what is he? He's 26, 27. I mean, I don't want to say that he's kind of been bypassed, but it's all the money with the young kids that we talk about. I think where Casey's kind of getting left out, which is a shame. I think that's why Bubba Pollard's not at a different level. He's very happy where he is, but it's one of those things to where the money and the youth part has kind of outweighed it. And man, I hate to say it with Casey because he's so fucking good. I think that factors in. I think, and he doesn't have that big money sponsor that he should have because he's that good.
It's surprising. We've seen him piece together rides before for the Derby when he ran his own car there with what was it, the pig on the hood and the sawdust on the side. So maybe he'll put something together like that again to get just to run for the Derby. But I mean, he's got a chance to win it. I think he'll end up in a pro ride for sure. No telling who, but I think he'll end up in a pro ride, and there's bound to be somebody. If Derek Thorne can find a last minute ride for the Derby, then I think that Casey Roderick's got a good chance too. So,
yeah, it's so weird with that because I know I guess it was last year when I was down there. It's got to be so hard for those guys because I was down working in the pits. And Boyette, our man Logan Boyette, was down there, and he was wrenching on some cars or trucks or whatever it was. And that guy looked sick to his stomach because he wasn't a part of that. He wasn't a part of the show at all. He wasn't driving. I mean, he was a team member. And I remember talking to him on pit road, and he's like, I hate this shit. He's like, I don't even want to be here. I've got to be here and work. So that Derby, man, now with the All-American out of the way, it's one of those things to where now we're in Derby mode. I mean, because it's coming up, and I think this year I'm curious to see what we get. I think Noah Gragson's coming or going there again. So I'm curious to see what kind of, once you get the Cup stuff out of the way, I'm curious to see if some of those guys may show up, but man, Derby time. You can't beat that stuff.
Well, it depends. A lot of it depends on the banquet. So some of your top guys may not be there, but who knows? Maybe we'll see. Last year we saw a couple of different Cup guys, and the year before seeing more and more Cup guys race in it. So you never know what you're going to get. A lot of those guys are going to wait till Phoenix to announce what they're going to do in super late models. I think there's a small chance you'll see the closer show up at the Derby this year too.
Harvick?
I think Harvick will end up at the Derby.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Now that he's got that deal with Rackley War and Sutton and them, so
yeah, wouldn't be surprised. Would not be surprised at all. I guarantee you he'll be there. I guarantee you he will be there. So it's setting up to be a stacked snowball derby coming up there at Pensacola, and of course we'll have it all covered for you right here on Revved Up. By the way, I did want to mention we're kind of late into this, but it's actually better because we got more people that have checked in now. Election Day special, again, get out and vote if you haven't already. We don't need to talk about any of that shit, but Election Day, I mean, tell us about your favorite events this year. Tell us about what you've gone out and seen, what's been good, whether it's in Texas or somewhere else. Give us all of those great race events that you've seen or the ones that are coming up, because we've got some really big stuff coming up. Again, if you're checking in on the free Texas Sports Unfiltered app, 512-814-6710 is the AV Consultations text line. Be sure to check in there, and we can talk to you guys there as well. All right, Bobby, let's get back to it. Yesterday, NASCAR. So, the drivers that are out, I got to tell you, and I saw this on Twitter. So the Chris Bell, Denny, Chase, and Larson, those are the guys that are out. I would rather see those guys race for a championship, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I think the fact that Larson's out is kind of a slap in the face when he was 1 point away from being your regular season champion after missing a race. Was 1 point away from being a regular season champion. So the fact that he's not in it, it is good to see your regular season champion make the championship four there with Tyler Reddick and Michael Jordan. I don't think people realize how big that still is. I say it all the time. The fact that Michael Jordan is an owner in NASCAR, people are like, oh, he's trying to sue NASCAR and all that to change the business model and all that. He's the most recognizable sports figure in the world. And he's an owner in NASCAR because he grew up a NASCAR fan and now he's doing it. Forget the minority part and all that stuff. It's Michael fucking Jordan that's a NASCAR owner. You know, that's the way that it works. That's good to see him in a championship 4 scenario. Obviously, the drive of the year from Ryan Blaney last week or yesterday, winning in there. And then you got Logano just kind of sitting there, ran like shit the last 2 weeks because he's got all his eggs in one basket there in Phoenix. So it's going to be surprising one way or the other, whoever ends up winning that championship. I think Reddick is the dark horse because you can imagine what's going to happen if a 2311 car wins the championship right in the middle of litigation with NASCAR. That would just be the soap opera, the extra drama for NASCAR to deal with. So,
yeah, yeah, that. I mean, I hope that happens. I mean, of those guys, I hope he wins. I mean, I really want him to be the champ. I like Blaney. I mean, but yeah, you know, Logano. I mean, honestly, I think with everything the way that the year has gone, if Logano became the champion again, 3-time champion, as it would be, that would kind of fit as just kind of the whole season, just everything that's happened. I mean, the guy probably shouldn't be in the play shouldn't have gotten to this round anyway, but he found it. I mean, he did. He got in. If he wins, it's kind of the icing on the cake, I think.
It definitely kind of puts a black eye on it. But the problem is you keep seeing all these, well, if points are this, if points are that, it doesn't matter. They all had the same point system. They all had the same win and you're in and move on to the next round, move into the playoffs. They all had that same system. You know, say what you will about Daytona when Burton won.
Yep.
The lowest man in the points ends up winning that Daytona race, moves on to the playoffs. That's the format at which all these guys are in the mix to play, right? It's the sandbox. It's NASCAR sandbox. They can do whatever the hell they want. But all the guys were inside the sandbox and knew the rules inside the sandbox once they got in there. The only guy that did know the rule in the sandbox was Kyle Larson when he started the Indy 500 instead of the Coke 600. He didn't know how that was going to turn out. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, the rest of us knew how that was going to turn out, but officially they didn't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know, dude. It's going to be an interesting. The thing I love about NASCAR though is the championship race is not the biggest race on the calendar. It's number 2. Mm-hmm. You got it's Daytona, and then it's Phoenix or whoever holds the championship race, and it's been that way ever since the playoffs. You know, especially with this format, with the elimination format, when you got the championship 4. But I mean, it's like, you know, it's weird that our biggest, you know, everybody else's biggest games are at the end of the season for their championship stuff. There's no bigger game series in baseball than the World Series, no bigger football game than the Super Bowl. Like, you know, you have Daytona that starts off the season, then you have the championship race that ends it, that bookends it. So, yeah. And I'm just surprised we've got 1 week left.
I know, it's flown by. I mean, it has flown by, and that's when people start talking about with sports, when it's like, okay, the NASCAR season's coming to an end. I'm like, no, that sucks. I mean, it's going to be done. I mean, like with football, when it's like, oh man, I can't wait for divisional weekend. I'm like, I can, because that means you got 1 game left. Or 2 games, 3 games left when that's all said and done. But a lot of NASCAR people, you know, the legends that have been a part of this for a long time are really being outspoken about everything that happened yesterday, and just being very vocal about different things. One of those being Mark Martin. He had a conversation. This was from X. Let's take a listen to Mark Martin's thoughts on everything that transpired yesterday.
Racers should do. At the end of the day, if it's going to help you to help another manufacturer that you're a driver for, that's okay. I just don't believe that this is a powerful money thing. I understand that they support these teams a little bit, but I don't believe that they support them to the point where they're going to quit racing. Nobody quit racing. I mean, you raced so hard for 25th, it was like you raced for your life when I raced these cars.
And I think that's the one thing that bothers me, to where it's gotten like with Formula One to where with team orders and all that, man, forget that shit. I mean, I was raised on I mean, yeah, you're driving a Chevy, you're driving an Oldsmobile, whatever the case is. You just get out there and race, and that was the frustrating thing yesterday, like we talked about in the intro, to where it was very obvious what was going on. And now with the in-car communication, I mean, you listen to the Bubba Wallace one. I mean, come on, Ray Charles could see what the hell's going on with that shit. Name me a deaf person; they could hear what's going on with that.
Helen Keller could see it and hear it.
Helen Keller, for crying out loud, could hear what was going on. And
I'm going to get a lot of shit for that. You're welcome, no.
well, join the club. Sport compacts.
So here's my question for you, though. If the 2 cars behind the 24 car were, say, the 5 car and the 48 car teammates, would that have made a difference? Would that have been even more outrageous, more egregious than what it turned out to be with just Chevrolet teammates behind him?
To me, it'd be worse. I mean, to me, it'd be worse if it were those guys. And I'll be damned, Kyle Larson ain't going to sit there. Kyle Larson's going to punt him. I don't give a damn who it is. But, you know, it's – and the whole thing is, and I'm going to find this because I just download so much shit right here. This is what it all comes down to when you start manipulating things on the racetrack. NASCAR requires its competitors to race at 100% of their ability with the goal of achieving their best possible position in the event. How do you – it's – in the old days, it was impossible to determine that. But now they took that 23 car and tore it apart. That car didn't have no tire going down.
No.
No. I mean, he was sitting there, and before you guys go beating up on Bubba Wallace, that wasn't his thing. This was OEM mandated. Come on now. Yeah. What'd they say? Reddick had a fire. I mean, come on. Any competitor who takes action with the intent to artificially alter the finishing positions of the event, or encourages, persuades, or induces others to artificially alter the finishing positions of the event will be subject to penalty. Those guys need to have a penalty because they did. The 1, the 3, the 23, all those guys. Come on.
I mean, we don't have Michael Waltrip racing because of the accidental spin that they determined was not accidental. Truex lost his ride and his multi-million-dollar sponsor.
Thank you.
To Spingate years ago. But the part of it for me, though, is what's the point of having a teammate if they can't help you on the racetrack?
I know. And that's
the sad part. Like, if you got a team, you know, your teammates are supposed to help you. They're your wingman, right? I mean, I'm not saying they're taking the one for the team and taking the one home, but I mean, really, that's what teammates are for. That they're there to help you out in the best thing. I mean, you know, the 22 was concentrating on Phoenix, and he had the same setup as the 12 car. You know, so it's a challenge there. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you gotta love the teammate aspect of it a little bit. I think just what makes it crazier is that the radio transmission said, "Does the one car have the message?"
That's the messed up part.
That's the messed up part. Does the one car have the message? Because Keselowski was coming. Keselowski was faster than all 3 of them, but he just couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah. That's the messed up part. I mean, he could have won that race if he could have got around all those guys, but they were sitting there, you know, roadblocking. I mean, wide load ahead. And that's what was going on right there. And that's going to be what's interesting moving forward as to what NASCAR does, because like you mentioned there, they've set a precedent in the past, and that's why that thing that we just pulled up is in place, because of the MWR thing and all of that. I mean, you can't, it's impossible now to sandbag and help out because everybody knows what you're doing. I mean,
we saw it at Talladega.
Yeah. They sit there and fucking check the gas pedal to see if you're floating that thing around or stroking that thing around. I mean, they can totally see everything. And that's where, you know, I go back to, I've told this story on here before. In 2000 at Kyle, we go into the final championship race, and it was such the street stocks that year. I think there were 10 of us that could have conceivably won the championship, from fourth on down, it was going to take a lot of work. But we get out there and we start racing. You don't know what's going on. I mean, you're just out there driving. And I come up and I see, I think it was 94. I see Larry Stein and Bobby LaFont in front of me. We go into the final corner. LaFont goes high, and I dove under him and finished in between them, and I caused them to tie for the championship. And folks are like, "Why'd you pass Bobby LaFont?" I'm like, "Because he fucking slipped up the track." I mean, I'm not going to sit there behind him. I knew that those two were the point leaders, but I'm not going to follow him. I am going to, what that said, try to race at the best of my ability in that event. And that's just kind of what it's going to be an interesting week, man. There's stuff coming down. I just don't know, man. NASCAR, you can't win for losing if you're NASCAR right now. There's always something. There's always something that comes and gets them. I got to tell you though, this one right here, this is big. This is.
You think they park him?
I totally think they should.
Because I mean, they did look at Cole Custer a couple of years ago at the Roval.
Yep.
Let off, gave the spot to his teammate and got fined $100,000 or some outrageously amount number. Same thing, helping out a teammate. Yep. I mean, it's, and they set the precedent there too. So yep. I don't know. I liked your Ricky Craven post this morning too. He pretty point on. I'm
about to play that. I reached out to him because he gave his phone number out. If you go back and listen to the whole thing, he puts his phone number out. I called him and he's like, "Ricky Craven." And I'm like, "Hey, can you be on my show tonight?" He's like, "Oh man, I'm inundated with different things that people want to talk about. I can do your show maybe in the next couple of weeks." I said, "Is there any chance that I can play your 4-minute video? Is there any copyright, whatever because the emotion that he showed and everything in that is just unbelievable." He said, "You do what you need to do." He said, "You play that so people understand the true aspect of how big this was." So let's take a listen. This is Ricky Craven this morning. This is pretty powerful right here. This I cannot summarize this any better than what he said.
Morning. My grandfather clock. 23 years ago, I fulfilled a lifelong dream of winning a NASCAR Cup Series race. And when I went under the checkered flag, time stood still. It's the only time it ever happened. Hadn't happened since. And because of that, I have lifelong allegiance to NASCAR. I am an annuity, which all drivers are, an annuity to NASCAR, whether they're competing on television, fans, just even retired. You're an annuity. You're always contributing to NASCAR because NASCAR contributed to you in your life. And that's what I represent. I have had a phenomenal life, in large part because of Bill France Jr., his mom and dad, the family. Today, Jim France and Mike Helton are, I have as deep a rooted allegiance to them as anybody in the sport. If either of them called, I'd be on a plane or I'd do whatever they need because that's what they contribute to my life. And I want to make it very clear that I'm coming to you today because I have equity in the sport. Everything I just described, 40 years of equity in NASCAR. And even though I'm not present today, I was present yesterday. I watched every lap of the race that changed my life 23 years ago. And I must say that at the end, Jeff Burton nailed it. It's a damn shame you got to be involved in something that stunk as bad as that stunk. But, we all have to plug our nose and move past it. The broadcast crew was phenomenal all day. Enjoyed the hell out of it. And by and large, I think Elton Sawyer, you did a great job. Steve O'Donnell and the crew, they did the right thing. And they got backed in a corner. And I want to make something very clear. I'm going to keep this succinct as possible, but I was pissed off. I couldn't sleep. I woke up this morning, exercised. I just got out of the shower. And I'm telling you, if I'm king for a day, and this is coming from somebody that has equity in the sport. So anybody that wants to debate me, my number is 980-505-3699. Come on. this morning, if I'm king for a day, the number 3, the number 1, and the number 23 are looking for backup drivers for the final race of the season. It's critically important that those 3 drivers sit home and think about the alternative. 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour. Listen, you have no idea how privileged your life is because of NASCAR. And you single-handedly compromised NASCAR yesterday. And man, I think the world of Ross Chastain. I think the world of Bubba Wallace. I've about had my fill of Austin Dillon, but I think the world of his grandfather. I'd go to the end of the earth for Richard Childress. Most of us would, but I've had enough of Austin Dillon. You know, this is starting to be a replay. I'm tired of him. You compromised the sport yesterday. The last 10 laps, I don't need an algorithm. I don't need computers. I don't need data. I watched you guys, and none of it made sense to me. Shame on you. Sit home for a week.
That is a pissed off guy right there. I don't know if it's pissed off or hurt. More hurt, it seems like.
A magnitude of both, I think, with a little bit of embarrassment thrown in there as well. Because we all were a little embarrassed by the finish. Like I said, that was a hell of a drive from Ryan Blaney, and the only thing we were talking about is team orders.
Yeah.
And so, like, you it took away, and I don't think Ryan Blaney gives a shit. He won without.
He didn't.
He won. He did what he needed to do, and took the lead and won, and was excited, and did his post-race interviews and said, "I don't care what happened behind me. I'm in the right way. I don't care who the 4th driver is." But I think that it just comes down to it's the nature of this beast. We saw it at Talladega. We saw it at Daytona where Chevrolet got pissed off at Parker Retzlaff for pushing a Ford to the win. You saw it there at Talladega where Kyle Larson wouldn't push Brad Keselowski to the win because it was a Ford. And that's how Ricky Stenhouse ended up winning the race at Talladega. So I mean, dude, the problem is every problem within this sandbox is the problem that NASCAR created by creating the system the way that they created it. Not saying that the system sucks. I'm not saying that the system's great, but the sandbox, or the rules in the sandbox, are what caused all of this to happen.
Yep. And kind of to your point right there about Retzlaff, I mean, Mark Martin, I didn't pull that part about it, but he talked about that as well. He was like, okay, you had all of that outcry against that dude from Chevrolet or GM. It's like, what do they do for him anyway?
Nothing.
Like, why didn't he know about the team rules? Because
he probably wasn't in that meeting. Yeah,
they don't invite him, and it's one of these things to where NASCAR is. Look, the playoff thing needs to stay, whether it's in this form. I don't really know how you change it, and I got to tell you, I'm very surprised that it's taken this long for this to happen. Because the way the whole thing is set up with the team, with the manufacturer concept and the teams, you know, with Hendricks, you know, having 4 cars and Gibbs and all of that. I mean, the way this whole thing is put together, it's a select group of millionaires that get to play in the sandbox, like you talk about. I am surprised that it took this long, because it's been, and the thing is, it's impossible for it to not be known that it's happening, because now we hear everything, and that's another problem. We don't need to hear all that. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think NASCAR needs to be monitoring radio conversation and all of that. I mean, that takes a lot of that puts it back to the Formula One part to me, to where NASCAR doesn't need to be Formula One. I think if you're NASCAR right now, you need to stay on your saving grace of what brought you to be the greatest motorsport in North America. The fact that it was team for team, racing each other, whatever you do. Bobby, this wouldn't be a big deal to me, even though it was painfully obvious yesterday, if we didn't have all this data. If Bubba
SMT data is the downfall of racing.
The fucked up part. That's the messed up part. And that's with short track racing, that's where I worry that it's going to get to the point where everybody hears everything, and we're going to get to this with what we do. And it's like, come on, man. It's going to be an interesting week, I think. How many times have I said that?
I mean, we wish our friends that I didn't get a chance to listen to it this morning, but we wish our friends at SiriusXM well for the rest of the week. Our buddy Dave Moody, friend of the show, will be on pretty much live on Wednesday afternoon around 2:00 when they drop the bombshell that's going to be dropped about 2:00. So you get the replay of Dale Jr. download on there, which won't be live. He's one that I'd like to hear the take on too, what he thought about all that, since he was a big time, T Mortar kind of guy there before. Like, I mean, the greatest finish in Daytona 500 history, or one of the greatest finish, depending on how you look at it. Dale Earnhardt Sr. blocking for the 2 DEI cars. I mean, nobody raised an eye. Well, I mean, they raised an eyebrow then, but that it's a different circumstance, the end result. But everybody thought that was great. It's Dale Earnhardt protecting his 2 drivers. Nobody gave shit about that. Obviously the when he hit the wall, but during that race, the last 5 laps, nobody gave a shit that he was blocking.
Yeah. It's bad because I turned that on. I had to run an errand and I was out and I had it on channel 90 and Larry McReynolds, of all people, Larry McReynolds was bitching about this whole thing. I mean, that's the ultimate torchbearer for NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
No wrong to that guy. I mean, back in the day, me and Davey Ellison, this dude was pissed. It's got to be bad if he's and Danielle. I mean, she was. Oh my God! I'm like, calm this girl down. Give her a tranquilizer. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you have. And I got to tell you, when we talk about NASCAR media, our girl Claire B. Lang was the one, and I didn't pull this sound. I was going to pull it, and I ran out of time. She point blank asked Elton Sawyer about this whole situation, and that dude was doing the limbo. Totally skirting the issue. I'm like, I will say, the one thing that I'm proud of NASCAR for doing was at least coming to a decision on the 4th place thing last night. Not sitting here dicking around, waiting until
not doing like they did with Austin Dillon.
Exactly.
But I think that's the reason they did it so quick, because of that fiasco with Austin Dillon.
Yeah. How about Craven? I'm tired of that guy. Pop. Get you a driver in there. You want to make that 3-car a little bit better?
Well, I don't know. Kyle Busch can't win in the other car, so.
Good point.
Which is going to be sad to see that streak come to an end, because there's no way his ass is going to win at Phoenix.
That sucks. I really hope
19 years out of 19 years in a row. Year number 20, just not going to happen. He's having the year this year that everybody thought he was going to have last year.
Yeah. Thanks, Gibbs. You could have went and got that guy a sponsorship. That guy could still be in that 18 car right now and probably be in this championship race, maybe, or at least get to the grade 8. But you let that get away. That's going to suck. I truly hope that when we get to 2025, that either Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr. in a Chevrolet, right?
No, he'll run a Toyota for 2311 if they run.
2311. I hope one of those guys wins the Daytona 500. Kyle Busch, because it sucks. I mean, that look, I mean, I know a lot of folks have been soured on Kyle, but when you have a streak like that, like you're saying, that sucks that that's going to end just because you're driving junky cars. And that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing.
Kevin Harvick said it best. You cannot make a slow car go fast.
Yep. Absolutely cannot. And Truex, damn it, I wanted to see him win yesterday. But his team failed him yet again. Thanks, Gibbs.
Yeah, another one of those excellent pit crew. Well, he kind of screwed himself by speeding on pit road, but
yeah, he did, but I don't know. But it was disappointing yesterday in the sense that I don't mind the shenanigans and all that, because I look like Ricky Craven said, I love NASCAR. I mean, I absolutely love it. I mean, the spirit of competition, just the events, just everything. I grew up watching this shit, and I know that everything changes. But when things happen like they did yesterday, that were so damn obvious, that's where it's like, it's really hard to defend. It's really hard to defend, like the Dallas Cowboys. It's really hard to defend my team right now when they do shit like that. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'm a card carrying lifelong NASCAR fan, but to say that my series isn't fucked up, I'm full of shit. It's a mess. It's a mess.
It's closer to the circus now than it has been before.
Yeah. And you know,
that's before we even talk about the lawsuit.
Oh God. That's
Did you read Pocker's stuff today?
Yes, I did.
I love that quote. Hey, did you get that one Denny Hamlin thing I sent you?
Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of been a lot today. What was it?
The one that says we're safe again from another Denny Hamlin championship.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I got that. Now, look, I mean, the whole thing with that is I wanted him to advance. I truly think that for NASCAR, I think that Denny Hamlin being in the Final Four and not winning or winning would be, I really want that. I've never been the biggest fan of his, you know, whatsoever. I mean, I'm not a fan of anybody. I like them all and dislike them all. But I think that Denny Hamlin needs to win a championship to bookend his career. He deserves a championship. I really think he does, because he's done a lot. And just with everything, making the move over to the other side of the fence and doing all the other stuff. I really want the guy to win a championship. But
who's the better guy to never win a championship, Denny Hamlin or Mark Martin?
Mark Martin. Because I go back to Mark, and it's like, Mark, you know, with all the short track stuff that he did, and then, you know, in 82, you know, or 81, 82, whatever it was, making that move in there. And if you go back and listen to Mark Martin talk about when he made that move, it was his life savings. It was everything that he threw in there with Apache Stove or whoever it was that kind of went with him there. And he got fucked when he went over. He was a young kid, kind of wet behind the ears, and he got took. That dude got took. And gotten shitty equipment and put himself back in ASA and figured out a way to get back. And hey, look, he built Roush. Say what you want to say. Roush wouldn't be the Roush legacy without Mark Martin, without that 6 car.
If you still think of Mark Martin, everybody thinks of the Valvoline number 6.
Absolutely. And I take it further back. I go to the Folgers car. I mean, it's that guy. And that's another example right there with him. That's another guy that is very loyal to NASCAR, that has given him his career and his life and everything that he enjoys right now. For that dude to be speaking out like Ricky Craven, saying what we heard a while ago, I mean, that's how big this thing is. I mean, and like I said, Larry Mack, you got to figure this thing out. It's I don't know how you fix this. I mean, you can't. There's a lot of problems right now. The charter thing, the lawsuit you're talking about, that's a big old mess. The point system, don't change that. Don't change that, because otherwise, like you mentioned a while ago, what would be the allure of going to Phoenix with Kyle Larson being 425 points ahead? Nothing.
I mean, even if he's 25 points ahead, which is one of the things I showed, that's still 15 spots, 20 spots.
Yeah.
Of course, the way he likes to step on it every now and then, that could get entertaining.
Yeah.
You want to know why that lawsuit's going to fail, by the way?
Mm.
Because of what they said today. NASCAR's main argument. This is from Bob Pocker's Twitter. NASCAR's main arguments from today's hearing. 2311 and Front Row Motorsports have already signed contracts with similar language, and if teams win, monetary damages can be calculated. The NASCAR attorney said in court that they can't say NASCAR is anti-competitive when they already have participated in it and want the benefits of a charter.
Mm-hmm.
Done.
Yeah.
That lawsuit's done with that right there.
Yeah. That right there, I saw something to where it was like 2311 and Front Row had, I don't know if it's actually something that they had put in writing or whatever, that the results of this and the repercussions of this could cost them sponsorship and all these different things. don't bring that up now. You should have thought about that before. I mean, because look, man, you said it. It's NASCAR. They do what they want. This is their thing. There's nobody that's going to step in here and try to do this job. And is there family, whatever in NASCAR? Fuck yeah. That's everywhere. I mean, look around. Politics, business, the NFL, sports. Yeah, that's everywhere. That's a part of the deal. NASCAR has taken this and they built it into this conglomerate that is just, it's the major league of stock car racing in North America. We can sit here and talk about World of Outlaws and all these different things. They don't hold the jock of NASCAR, even close, not even close. NASCAR rules everything.
Hell,
And that's
Formula
why,
One can't hold the jockstrap in NASCAR in North America.
no, they can't. And that's why I say so many times where we as short track people, it's so important that we have to align ourselves, even if we don't like them. You always have that one friend or that relative or whatever it is. You don't really give a damn about them, but you're cordial and you kind of hang out with them for, this is business. NASCAR will help short track racing. And I mean, look, we just talked to Higdon right there. For years, we have talked about quarter midget racing. Now it's the NASCAR Youth Series, and it's national. Same shit, but you added 6 letters. NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
Game changer. Game changer.
There's a reason why NASCAR was, or Houston was NASCAR sanctioned for a long time. In a city that big with that many people, they didn't recognize the name Houston Motorsports Park, but boy, they recognized the name NASCAR. And that brought them out, and just, you and I both been there on top of that tower, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people deep in the heyday of that place. Holy moly. And they were there because it was the NASCAR Weekly Racing Series.
I guarantee you one thing. Sorry to use that Lord's name in vain. But when John Mandeback, and we'll get him back on here and he can tell us, when he went to Fiesta and all these other different places and sold those packages that he sold, I guarantee you he didn't say, I'm sure he mentioned Houston Motorsports Park. How do you think he led that off with?
I want you to be associated with NASCAR in Houston.
Amen. And that's where it's so important. I mean, I think that it's one of those things. Yes, they have a lot of deficiencies. They have a lot of stuff to figure out. I'll say it again. This week is going to be it. So what happens Wednesday? Bold prediction. I use this all the time, and I haven't asked it yet. I'm going to ask tomorrow.
I don't know. With all the uproar, they better have a choice but to park them.
Mm-hmm. I think they park them all. Especially in this race.
The 3 and the 23 will be parked. It's going to be a question of if the number 1 gets parked.
Yeah. I think at this point, just damage control. You park them. You park him too. Just, I mean, what do you have to lose? I mean, it'd be one thing if those guys were in the championship race. They're not. The owners thing, I mean, their owners' points, I guess, all factors in right here. But it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. And what a mess! God dang it! What a mess!
It's unique.
Oh man! And that's why when I message you, I'm like, dude, we gotta. I don't care who listens. We gotta talk about NASCAR because this is really some big old shit going on. So anyway,
it's definitely a shit show.
Might have to do a Wednesday special, my man. What are you doing Wednesday? Maybe
working in the office, but I'll get back about 6, 7 o'clock.
Shit, that'd be the best time. A Wednesday reaction possibly coming up right here on the Revved Up Sports Show with all of that for all of our friends checking in on the channels that care about NASCAR. So
are we gonna do our championship as soon as it's over deal?
Sunday?
Yeah.
Let me see. I've got Houston. Depends how I usually get up and get my ass back over here. I'll do it even quicker. So yeah.
We'll talk about it.
We always do pre-race. A post would be good.
We've done a post before. Because one time I did it from Denver, Colorado, because they ended the week. They ended that Sunday of Thanksgiving.
Nice. Yeah, that would be good. Especially after all this. Because I think the storylines are going to abound through all of this. All right, friends, stuff coming up this weekend. If you're in the Texas area, there it is once again. The Texas Grand coming up at 105 Speedway. Great show. Great show. Big one. Houston Motorsports Park. Season finale. NASCAR Youth Series. Tying everything together right there. I think that's going to be a lot of fun as well. So you have all of that happening. And like we said, I mean, be sure and check in at RevvedUpSportsShow.com. And, of course, on the Facebook page for the social people. And on our Twitter pages, Bobby's at Bobby Chaffee. I'm at the Rodney R. Just to kind of keep up with everything that's going on, because this NASCAR stuff is going to keep stuff's going to leak. I would assume tomorrow we'll start getting some ideas of what may happen and who's affected by all this mess.
I mean, if they were smart, they'd do it tomorrow, not wait till Wednesday.
I think so too. I mean, if it's a matter of, I've seen a lot of different things to where guys that Byron should be thrown out of the four. I don't know if I don't think you throw him out. I mean, he was just there.
He didn't do anything wrong.
Just being slow.
Now, granted, I don't think that Bell did anything wrong.
I don't think Bell did anything wrong either. I mean, I think that's the biggest travesty in my opinion. I mean, that wasn't a hail melon.
No. He got in too deep and hit the fence. I mean, that was purely got in way too deep and hit the fence. But
yeah, 23 pulled over. Flat tire and all, pulled over and let him go by. But
because as slow as the 23 was going, he didn't even have to really go balls out into the corner and go into the wall.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with this. I mean, it's like if you're gonna cheat, this kind of always
cheat. Scratch your arm.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been my racing motto to where if you're gonna cheat, do it. Don't make it so obvious. I mean, and then play dumb. I mean, these guys all do a good job of playing dumb, but it's like, I mean, shit. I don't know. We'll see what happens Wednesday. But anyway, it's been fun. This has been fun tonight, and hell, didn't know if we'd get an hour in, but here we are at 8:12 Central, and we have figured out a way to get this far. And Bobby, it's still not storming here.
I keep getting notification that says lightning is in my area, but I hadn't seen it yet.
I ain't got nothing. Let me check mine. No, I have gotten nothing. And the Kansas City Chiefs are winning on Monday night.
Did Kelsey score any points for me?
Talk about damage control. That guy has been doing, no, Jason. Was it Jason? Yeah, Jason.
Jason's the one that broke the phone.
Oh, Jason, calm down, son. But I mean, if somebody,
I was winning anyway, but I'd like to see Travis. He's only got 4 points. So
I went buck wild this weekend on my thing. It was like I had all these receivers out, and I was driving home from Stephenville yesterday in a torrential downpour, and I heard that Amari Cooper was out, so I had a Smith and Gimba on the bench. I'm like, let me put him in, and he goes off for 30 points. I'm like, well, why couldn't that have happened earlier in the year?
I didn't realize you were dead last in the league.
I'm suck ass last, dude. I am number 10. I'm 10th last. No good. I'm glad we didn't make any bets about like having to go out in public in a dress or something like that, because that would be me. We should do that in that league. I think that would be fun.
Be fun.
Remember our friend Colonel Craig Flowers and Jamie Frazier. So Jamie Frazier one time lost a fantasy football bet, and he had to go to it's like some high-end restaurant, and he had to go in there and like shine people's boots in the shitter one time because he lost. He finished last. It's like, that big bastard over there shining people's shoes, having to bow down to people. Yikes. Military guy. Ooh. Damn. By the way, before we sign out of here, tomorrow is a huge day because the college football playoff rankings come out.
That's the poll everybody's concerned with.
That's the one I give a shit about. The other ones I don't. NFL trade deadline is tomorrow. Lots of moves that are going to be happening. So that's big. And oh, by the way, there's the other thing going on. Everybody be calm tomorrow, please. Don't do anything stupid. It is what it is. If you don't agree with what happens, that's fine. But look, it's just don't do anything stupid.
What does it always say? Don't vote, no bitch.
That's it. And by all means, if you haven't voted, I was talking to somebody over the weekend. My one vote don't count. I'm like, yes, it does. Yes, it does. I mean, if anything, go vote, because you're going to be bitching about something. And when I say, who'd you vote for? And you say, nobody, I didn't like either one of them motherfuckers. Well, you're part of the problem. So just stay calm, everybody. Stay calm. NASCAR is out of control and everybody's calm. If NASCAR can stay calm, the country can.
Yeah.
Although Wednesday, people may be out of control.
Wednesday's going to be an interesting day.
Wednesday's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, they put up a bunch of riot fences and stuff around the Capitol and the White House. So
they might need to do that in Charlotte around NASCAR headquarters.
yeah.
That they may need to do that there as well. We joke, but we're serious. Don't do anything dumb. All right, friends, great program tonight. Welcome to all the folks checking in on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Of course, Race On, Racing America. What's going on this weekend? We've got Houston. We've got the Texas Grand that we talked about. We're into big race season, so dirt's really going to be kicking off, and we'll cover all that wall to wall as we always do. Robert, rest of the week for you, my man.
Still working on Houston. I'm working on a project at my parents' house. I need to try to get some concrete work done. But got to try to find a way to get that very cost effectively done. Looking at a couple alternatives to concrete, and then I'll be working on my golf cart project for a couple of days.
I'll tell you the best way to do that concrete thing cost effectively, maybe not the best production, would be a wheelbarrow, a lot of bags of concrete, water, and a strong bag.
Yeah, 2x4s. Yeah.
Fuck that.
It looks like we're doing pea gravel instead.
Nice. I like that a lot. Yeah. Looking forward to heading down to Houston this weekend to kind of button up everything happening there with season championships on the line and so forth. And I think I've got Texas post game, so that'll happen from the holiday on Saturday with Texas and Florida. So check in with all that. And of course, find a streamer. Race On's going to have you covered with all the stuff around here. And of course, Racing America will get you with some of the outside of Texas stuff. So, and Flow, I mean, turn on Flow. There's always something on Flow. I was going to start going through the Flow calendar, but we don't have enough time.
Yeah, there's a lot.
All right, friends. Thank you all for being a part of the program. Like we said, support your local short tracks. Find a streamer if you can't get to one. And of course, tomorrow, be calm, be cool. Everything's going to work out. There's a plan in place. Everything's going to work out fine. For Bobby, I'm Rodney. We are deep in the heart of Texas. Thank you for being a part of the program. Subscribe to the YouTube page, and we will do it again. Maybe Wednesday, but for sure, next Monday, 6:30 p.m., we'll talk about what happened there if we haven't talked about it on Sunday night. This is #Real Race Talk. It is the Revved Up Sports Show. You guys be well and have a great week.